Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
I feel like I should take second billing. You're here.
I got to give the cameraman credit. This thing's centered perfectly today. Whoever centered this camera, I got to give, first of all, that's the biggest shout out of the day.
Yeah. Okay. So this is by the way, Kyrie Irving torn ACL, so the Mavericks season just
had a sneaky feeling that's what it could have been.
Yeah. This is the day that Florida State, Clemson, and the ACC are expected to settle. Now, the votes don't take place until a little bit later today. But part of this is based on TV viewership. Okay. So let's take the 2024 season. And I want to thank Ron Moeller, the Mole Man, for sending me this handy-dandy chart. How should I work this? Bottom to top or top to bottom?
Well, you got to. I would say top to bottom because top's going to be obvious, right?
Well, the top in non-ACC games.
I was going to say involves another team that plays the ACC.
Okay, so
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll save the Notre Dame part for last. Okay, because they're actually number one in viewership, but it's not what you think.
Yep.
Number one among ACC teams that can win the conference championship happens to be. Go ahead.
Florida State.
Nope.
Clemson.
Nope.
Number one, Miami or North Carolina.
Nope and nope.
Neither. Oof. Yeah, this ACC is already getting interesting.
Georgia
Tech. There it is.
Now remember, Georgia Tech opened the season with Florida State and Ireland.
Yeah, and then the Georgia 3.
And the 7 overtime game Friday with Georgia.
Yep. Yeah.
Which, I mean, I sat there, I watched it.
Same. Yep.
I got to the 3rd overtime, I'm like, oh, somebody score. I want to go to bed.
Yep.
Number 2, okay, their average for 7 TV appearances. Now, remember, they can't really average out the ACC network. Right. It doesn't rate on Nielsen, okay? Yep. So it's 7 TV appearances Georgia Tech had, 2.9 million per game. Miami was next.
I was figuring Miami had to be up there.
Now, they had 10 appearances at 2.6 million per game. Clemson was third, 9 appearances at 2.2 million a game. Florida State was fourth, 9 appearances at 2.1 million a game. Guess who was fifth? Now it was only 4 appearances. Boston College, 1.7 million. Louisville, 6 appearances, 1.4 million. Virginia Tech, 5 appearances, 1.4 million. Stanford, 4 appearances. Again, no ACC network, so it's the traditional ESPN, ABC, whatever, okay? Stanford, 1.4 million. NC State, 1.3. Syracuse, 5 appearances at 1 million.
Yeah, they had some big games
okay.
on ESPN.
Duke, okay, 5 appearances, 861,000. Okay, Cal, 8 appearances, 789,000. Here's the one that throws everybody for a loop. North Carolina.
Yeah, I thought UNC would be up a little higher.
5 appearances at 787,000. Now here's the crusher locally. Pitt. 8 appearances at 745,000.
Not surprising.
The total viewership for Pitt this year, total for those 8 games, was 5.96 million. Penn State in single games.
I was going to say in one game at least,
eclipsed one game. Well, they eclipsed that several times last year.
Of course, yeah. But and just one game alone is my point.
The
Ohio
State game. They went past it in one game. Virginia, 4 appearances, 744,000 per game. Wake Forest, 5 appearances, 701,000, and dead last. And this, in part, explains the TNT rating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
Where Penn State essentially carried the whole darn thing.
Sure.
SMU was dead last, averaging 682,000 viewers per game, and they won every game in the conference. They were undefeated in conference play. So, in other words, their fans were, hey, this is great, this is great. But again, they play in a 32,000-seat stadium.
Sure.
They may be playing it, they may be from Dallas, but 682,000 viewers per game for the team that didn't lose a game.
Yeah, and you go back to the game where Pitt was undefeated coming into that game against SMU, and SMU obviously blew them out, but nobody watched it.
Nobody watched
that game
at
all. Yeah, I go back to that game alone.
So now let's get to the story within the story. Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Notre Dame played, and of course they're going to be on national TV no matter what.
Of course.
Right? 6 games, non-ACC. Now that would include Northern Illinois, okay, but it also includes playing at USC.
Mm-hmm.
It also included, let's see, their game with Florida State was prime time. Texas A&M, right? Their non-ACC games, they averaged 3.75 million viewers. Okay? They had 22,496,000 viewers for the 6 games. 3.75 million, which is easily number 1, but that was for non-ACC games. In their ACC games, see, those non-ACC games would include Texas A&M, USC, Northern Illinois, Army, Navy.
That Army was in prime time. Yep.
Right? I think Stanford. Yep, right? So those would be the 6 games. Okay, those are non-ACC games. When they were forced to play an ACC opponent, 1.9 million. They lost 1.8 million viewers when it was an ACC opponent. That tells you everything about why they don't have the TV contract they have.
Yeah. And they were on, that game was, they played an ACC opponent in prime time on NBC when the whiteout was. Because that was the Florida State game. Yeah.
Yeah. And Penn State's game was Peacock.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it wasn't on TV.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, you just hurt everybody at Peacock's feelings.
Well, that'd bump your ratings up a little bit.
They had announcers and everything.
Don't have streaming only games when it comes to playoffs and everything else.
Ridiculous.
But yeah.
But again, when they did not play an ACC opponent, they averaged 3.75 million viewers, which is outstanding. When they played an ACC opponent, they had 1.9. They had 1.8, in fact, a little bit more than 1.8 million fewer viewers when they played an ACC team. I mean, that tells you that tells you everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That tells you everything.
Absolutely.
Because remember, the top 4 is supposed to get a little bit more based on who knows what kind of year by year or running average it happens to be. But they play a few Thursday night games. But this is not a good look for Clemson. It's not a good look for Florida State. Certainly it is not a good look for the ACC.
No.
I mean, I'm sorry. The world. No. We need to get Florida. You need to get Florida? You really do? Florida's got a lot of people living in it.
Florida's got a lot of people that are Penn State fans already.
Yeah.
It doesn't. You don't necessarily.
The number of people that tell me down in Florida they watch the games all the time, do watch parties. I mean, I've gone down to speak to groups. I spoke to Jacksonville. I spoke to Daytona Beach. I spoke to groups in that state, right? And they have golf courses, so I go. Just kidding. I didn't play any golf the last time I went.
There you go.
Right? You know what my side trip was? Because I was there for 3 days.
Jacksonville? See Daytona at all?
Well, I had to go to Daytona to speak, so I had both.
I was going to say to see the raceway was what.
No, I saw it in driving in to speak, which was right on the water. The chart house is right on the water. You have to come off the highway and go by the speedway. Anyway. And then, of course, I flew into the airport in November, so I saw the speedway. Like
the Brickyard beats the speedway. Anyway.
It is.
Yeah, I love the Brickyard.
It is. But I will say this: I've never seen the speedway at the holidays where they had it decorated, which when we were leaving to come back, it was a Tuesday night before Thanksgiving. It was beautiful.
Nice.
Right? Now, but my side trip, you know what my side trip was? I was done speaking to the people in Daytona. I went to the Kennedy Space Center.
Nice.
I'd never been there before.
Oh.
Right?
Same here. I've never been.
All right, never been there. Always wanted to go. It was really cool. I wish I had more time there. Yeah, maybe someday I get back there. Maybe they'll play in Orlando or something. Who knows? I can get over there, but it was really cool. Nice. But those are the TV numbers. And this is the problem that they're facing. So let's now bring this back to, so far, everything is played out the way we talked about. There really isn't anything in here that hasn't played out the way we said it was going to play out. When you and I have talked on here, we said openly, hey, look, Florida State and Clemson don't have a leg to stand on. The grant of rights is difficult to break. I mean, it's like we're checking boxes here.
Literally.
Right? Yeah. That ESPN in January would renew and go to 2036. Okay? Mm-hmm. We said that was going to happen. Box checked.
Yep.
And that they're going to have to settle. That's today. Box checked. I mean, the grant of rights thing is something that, to me, was the easiest thing to talk about. Oh, we can get out of that. No, you can't.
No. And it takes a lot for...
I believe the grant of rights I read was for the Big 12, because it's filed in Delaware.
I was just, yeah.
But
still short
but I read it.
Read it, yeah.
But the ACC went to the Big 12 and said, what do you have? And they gave them the document. So the ACC's is almost a duplicate of the Big 12's. And when it's not, 2,000 pages.
Right.
Help. Wait a minute. On page 692, I found it.
Yeah.
I found the loophole. Yeah. When it's only 5 to 8 pages, because it's right in there, it could be as few as 5, as many as 8. 5 to 8 pages. I'll tell you, what I read was simple language and straightforward. Yeah, I read it and go, I don't see how you get out of that.
Yeah.
Because it was that simple.
Sure.
It wasn't like, all the legalese and all this stuff. It was like when it came to the part about TV rights, it was very simple and very straightforward. And I think I said to you, you can have the greatest team of lawyers on the face of the earth. If you can't find you can look at 8 pages all you want with every single lawyer in the office. Right? In 2 years, if you can't find it, it's not there. No. Okay? And it's not there. So
I think you go as far as to say if Texas and Oklahoma didn't find it, it's not there.
That was always the example I had, because they were dealing with the Big 12 grant of rights. And 2021, they announced they're going to the SEC, and the SEC approves it. Now, you're not going to go into the conference right away.
Right.
I mean, you're not going to go like, hey, it's June. We're playing in September. No, you can't do that. But they played in the Big 12 in 21, and they played in the Big 12 in 22, and they played in the Big 12 in 23. Why? Because getting out of the grant of rights would have been 9 figures. Okay? Well, when they finally came around to the 2024 season, they were able to get it down to, voila, 8 figures. $50 million for Oklahoma, $50 million for Texas, We thank you for everything.
Yeah.
The Big 12 understood. They say, hey, look, we're going to go our own way.
Back.
We're more than happy to take the $100 million from the two of you combined, and we will invest it wisely.
Yeah. $50 million, no problem. $500 million? No, you're not making that back.
Right. I mean, so when you have, and I can't speak for Oklahoma, but Texas has a boatload of money. I'm talking about donor base, things like that. But nobody's going to sit there and go, hey, let's go to the SEC now. I'm going to write you a $100 million check. No, it's not happening.
It would have been $100 million even. It would have been higher.
Right. I'm saying, but I'm just using that as a round number. As time goes, now supposedly as time goes, and I think this is the part where they're talking about media deals, the grant of rights. Grant of rights, I think, Jason, the way it plays out is a lot like when we see, hey, there's a buyout in said coach's contract. It's $10 million the first year. It's $8 million the second. It's $7 million the third. Now it reduces as time goes. I think with grant of rights, it's the same thing. The number reduces as each year goes by. They can talk about exit fees and all that stuff and how it's combined and blah, blah, blah. So the next critical time is going to be, as I said yesterday, is going to be from January 1st, 2029. It's kind of hard to think that far in advance, but that's only 4 years away. Okay? January 1st, 2029 to maybe June 30th, 2031, in that neighborhood. Okay? So there's a 2.5-year period. In that 2.5-year span, because remember, TV negotiations begin usually a little bit more than a year out. There's right of first refusals and so forth, exclusive negotiating periods that you've got to go through. So what's up? Well, the Big Ten deal is finally up in 29/30. That's why I picked January 1st, 2029. Because at that point, you would feel like Tony Petitti, who has an incredible grasp of the television landscape. I mean, he knows it inside and out. That's when they'll start formulating plans as to what they want, talk to the athletic directors about what they want, and then start, probably going to Fox first and kind of a feeling out process. But it'll be starting somewhere in 2029 that will happen. And in fact, I wouldn't doubt it happens the latter stages of 28. The idea would be to get to no later than August of 29 and have the 30-31 contract done. That's why I picked January 1. Big Ten's first, 29-30. The Big 12 contract runs out in 2030. College football playoff contract, next up, 2031. And the SEC contract runs out in 31-32. That's why I picked June 30th of 31 with that. That is the next time where the door is open for some chaos and musical chairs in college sports. Now, we may go through the next few years in the landscape. All right. Say you're the Big Ten. You're at 18. You're looking around saying, look, I don't think managing 20 is not going to be easy. Right? We're fighting ourselves here to manage 18. And it's not just football and basketball. You're trying to manage 18 for volleyball, soccer, softball, baseball, gymnastics schedules, things like that. Lacrosse. I think USC and UCLA both have lacrosse.
Lacrosse, they should, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is that's something that they have to decide. The SEC's at 16. 16 is a great number to manage.
Mm.
Now, am I for Oregon and Washington being in the conference? Yeah, I am. But when it was USC and UCLA and it was at 16, I thought, hey, that number works every time. In fact, if you did not have Oregon and Washington in the conference, I think they would have been able to take all 16 schools to the Big Ten tournament.
Yep.
Because instead of playing 3 games on opening day, you would have played 4.
4. Yep.
Okay. To get it down to 12. Now, why they can't do that now, I don't know, but that's, I'm just a simple shepherd sitting here in central Pennsylvania. But it's going to be what you can manage. The SEC's got a great contract. The Big Ten has a great contract. Okay, the question is, do Florida State and Clemson or North Carolina make it better? And that's something that I think we're going to have to take the next
couple of years,
3 years, 3 years to debate, because Florida State had a great run 2 years ago, 2023, great run, undefeated in the regular season. Let's face it, an undefeated team doesn't make the playoff because their quarterback got hurt. That's a tough pill to swallow. Okay. But, I mean, that's tough. I mean, I don't blame any Florida State fan for being absolutely furious about it. Like, what else are we supposed to do? Right? I mean, won every game. But then they go through this past season, and it was a horror show. They won 2 games. And the last one was, I think it was Charleston Southern.
It was that middle week game. That was not middle week, but middle, like, end of season.
The next
game.
to last game.
Yep.
I think that was Gabe Gardenia's the head coach at Charleston Southern.
Did not know that.
Oh, God.
Did not know that.
Oh.
That was news to me.
Oh. Why do I show up?
They
Why do no. I'll change the subject here. It's just another epic failure on your part. A guy that grew up in State College and moved out to Penns Valley.
I know.
Right? You know his father.
Frank, heck yeah.
Frank and I worked together on basketball for years.
Yeah, Frank's a great guy.
Unfortunately, he's had some health struggles of late. But Cindy, you act like nobody's doing anything. I coached his sister Erin in Little League.
Okay, did not know that either.
Oh, God. It's just.
2 pieces of news I didn't know today.
We could do a whole show on that. Hey, unbelievable. Working with you is like working with somebody from the Babylon Bee. I mean, it's unbelievable.
FSU needed, a field goal to beat Cal, too, right?
Yes, they did. They did. Yeah.
So, they were...
Yeah. It's...
Yeah, when the wheels come off the bus, it's tough to put them back on. There's no doubt.
But again,
that happens a lot of times.
What that tells you, above all, and it's not like Florida State didn't have a multitude of problems last year. They did. But it tells you if you make the wrong move at quarterback, you have a problem.
Yeah.
And last year, they went hard from what I'm reading for Cam Ward. And I was like, wow, that'd be a great pickup. And remember, everybody thought Cam Ward was absolutely going to Ohio State.
Yeah.
Like, wow. Right? But then he's going to go south. He's like, Florida State. He went to Miami. And they ended up, and again, with all due respect, I'm not trying to down anybody, DJ Uyunglele.
Yeah.
And DJ was a good but not great quarterback at Clemson.
Stating facts, he's not.
He was a good, not great quarterback at Oregon State. And no offense, he was less than good this year. He didn't play well at all this year at Florida State. And when you make that kind of evaluation, so let's take Ohio State. In the end, they made the right choice with a guy like Will Howard.
Sure.
Okay. makes a big difference. In the end, and it took them a long time to get there, Notre Dame made the right choice with Riley Leonard. Okay.
Oregon's been 2 for 2. I think you could say.
Oregon's been 2 for 2. Yeah. The question is, will they be 3 for 3?
That's exactly.
The transfer from UCLA is going to get the first shot at it. Who's the backup last year? We'll see. I don't know. We're going to find out. I mean, is Carson Beck going to be great at Miami? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But they're a perfect example of that. And they suffered through a 2-10 season. Now, they were suffering through a 2-10 season while they were also renovating their stadium, so they didn't have a full capacity in there either. But the bottom line is they got to get themselves back on track. And as a basketball conference, they've got to get themselves back on track. They've got problems.
Absolutely.
Duke is a great team. There's no getting around it. I think Louisville's really good.
Yeah.
But they've got, boy, it's a real mixed bag with them. One of the ACC teams, I'm not going to say which one because I'm not going to, okay, but during the offseason called Penn State about playing a non-conference game. And at this point, Penn State had filled everything up. And they said, and they privately said, look, we need to increase our non-conference numbers because the conference doesn't give us enough. That's not good.
Yeah, it's not good at all.
Look, Duke's really good.
Sure.
Clemson's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw Clemson twice in person this year, and it's like, you know what? They look like a team that played in the Elite Eight last year. They had most of those guys back. Hunter's back at point guard. His younger brother's now playing a lot more and is playing very well. And Shefflin inside is just... I enjoy watching him play basketball because I think he plays the game right. He works hard, he passes well, he sets good screens, he rebounds, he hits his own shots. When he needs to be a little selfish, kind of like you, right. When he needs to be a little selfish, he is. When he needs to be unselfish, he is. I mean, it's just, Ian Shefflin's a really top shelf player. And ironically, with Leonard Hamilton moving on, guess who's number one in seniority in the ACC? Brad Burnell. But after that, what do you have in the ACC? Penn State played Virginia Tech this year. They ran them off the floor in Baltimore. And believe me, their coach, I like. Personally get along great with him. Because we've been in enough tournaments. We had a chance to talk to him. He's terrific. Great guy. And I think he's a really good coach. But they struggled this year. Virginia's a shell of themselves. Georgia Tech's a shell of themselves. Wake Forest with Steve Forbes as their coach, a little bit better. Okay, a little bit better. They couldn't compete with Duke last night at Cameron, but a lot of teams are like that. Yeah, and North Carolina's really struggled.
Big time.
And what does North Carolina struggle with? The exact same thing Penn State has struggled with this year. They've lost a bunch of games by less than 5 points. So the ACC in football is a struggle. The ACC in basketball right now is a struggle. And in the end, Clemson could and Florida State could go to the SEC. Clemson and Florida State go to the Big Ten. Or the whole group of them may merge with the Big 12.
Yeah.
I don't know. And if I hear one more person say, well, that would open the door for Cal and Stanford. Who would that? Cal and Stanford? Stop it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And look, I get where I understand what you're saying with Cal and Stanford, but you're not seeing I hate to say the word big picture, you're not seeing you're not. Cal and Stanford academically, yes. I probably wouldn't have gotten into Stanford as a student, but I got in here at least.
What a bold statement on your part.
But
wow. After listening
Rutgers,
to you all these years, I don't know how the
right.
audience came to that conclusion.
Rutgers somehow deny. I mean, you haven't beaten Penn State since, huh? But I'll tell you. But I think I think a lot of people look at the academic picture of it, and
that's a no-brainer.
That's exactly that.
Okay?
You're not bringing in millions.
If I
academically,
hear one more person sit there and go, and they're always right there at the top of the Learfield Cup. Who cares? It doesn't matter.
That's the point. It does not matter. You're not bringing in.
You think Tony Petitti
Petitti
sits in his office and goes, "My God, Stanford just won the beach volleyball championship.
Exactly.
Maybe we should bring them in."
There's no beach volleyball here in February. I can tell you that.
Well, you want to know what Tony Petitti's looking at? He's not looking at the beach volleyball stats. He's not looking at the women's volleyball stats. He's not looking at the women's soccer stats. He's not looking at any of that stuff. You know what he's looking at? Yeah. He is looking at the stat that tells you how many eyeballs are watching Stanford football play and Stanford basketball play, and it's not much.
Nope.
And that's the issue with all this, okay?
Right.
He is sitting there looking at the number that tells him last year Stanford in his first year in the ACC, okay? And again, these are non-ACC network games. Stanford had 1.4 million viewers per game. That's the number. Tony Petitto will look at it and go, what do they bring? Not much.
Not much. Nope.
Okay? Now,
Cal brings even less.
Right. Cal brings even less. Yes, they do. It's 789,000. Okay? They bring less. Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. That's the ball game. If you don't understand the ball game, don't get involved in the conversation.
Exactly.
Okay? Listen to the conversation. Don't get involved in it because this is not about Learfield Cup points.
No.
Okay?
No.
I praise them for winning every championship they win. But when it comes to this is about, this is about football and far down the road secondary, men's basketball.
Yeah.
Other sports do not come in. Well, what about women's basketball? No. Okay, does not come into a conversation at all.
No.
Zero. Okay? It's 90+% about football. Right? And then after that, it's the 5 to 10% men's basketball. Yeah. Whatever.
It's literally like buying the car with features you have no clue about, and they're there, and you're like, oh, wow. That's literally, you're primarily buying the car. You're not buying some feature that you have no clue about. That is the additional feature that you're looking at when this is all said and done. Like, oh, okay, that's there too.
No.
That's not the main driving force to the reason you bought the car.
Now, is there any doubt that Stanford's TV ratings are better than Pitt's? I mean, I'm sorry, better than Rutgers. Of course they are.
Yeah.
Okay? For Rutgers, this was all a matter of, right place, right time. And, it's about real estate, location. Sure. Well, they give you the San Francisco market. They do?
You have the California market.
You've got
teams.
USC and UCLA. You pretty much have California. You're in good shape.
No. My goodness.
The answer is no.
No.
I mean, I hear that stuff, and I'm like, are you listening to yourself?
No. No, somebody sits there and tells me, look what Texas brings to the table with other sports, because they bring football first.
Okay.
Then all those other sports are bonuses.
Football is the driver.
Absolutely.
When they sit down at the negotiating table, Tony Petitti is sitting there, and they are talking about football. And let's talk about the men's basketball schedule secondarily. Okay? CBS, hey, you guys want to continue to cover the semifinals of the Big Ten basketball tournament. Hey, NBC, Peacock, we'll give you the opening night of the men's basketball tournament plus a series of regular season games. That's what they're talking about.
Sure.
That's why when people talk about other sports being on Big Ten Network, for example, take a long, hard look just for, at who the advertisers are. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, like the men's basketball games have like people who are paying paying money to be on there.
Sure.
Okay? And that's what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
Right? But But football drives the whole thing. Okay? Football's the one.
Football,
okay?
or you have one heck of a basketball program that can overcome that. And it's difficult to be that.
Boy, I mean, yeah, to a point.
Yeah.
I mean, Duke still needs football to be good. Their basketball's awesome.
Carolina, same thing.
Right?
Obviously, ACC makes it even worse.
I mean, Carolina's struggling this year. I mean, they struggle in both football and men's basketball. Now, Hubert Davis just signed an extension. Meanwhile, Bill Belichick's now the head coach at North Carolina for football. But that's what drives all this.
Absolutely.
It is not driven by Learfield Cup points.
No.
Right?
No.
Okay? Now, if you wanted to accept them because you think they will help football, great, because they'll bring with it great academics, which, of course, is an important part of the Big Ten consortium. Sure. No question. But I go back to, okay, let's simplify this. Let's go out and, let's think the way you'd think. I got to really make this simple. Let's go buy a pizza.
I was going to say pizza pie. Literally going to say pizza pie, the same thing.
It's just, this show has become just...
I was literally going to say piece of the pizza pie. That's literally where I was going with it, too.
Okay. So, I have a pizza. Okay? I cut the pizza up into 14 slices.
Right.
Okay? Everybody has an equal slice. All right. But now somebody says, I want to have a pizza with 16 slices. Well, if I take the same size pizza, everybody's going to get a smaller slice. Okay? 18, everybody's going to get a smaller slice. But now I've got 18, and guess what? Because of television revenue, my pizza became exponentially bigger.
Right.
So even though instead of slicing up 14 slices, I'm now slicing up 18, technically 17, because Oregon and Washington count for one. But let's just keep it at 16. Yeah. Okay, well, Oregon and Washington are different. Right. Okay, 16 slices. Well, each slice is exponentially bigger, which means that the Penn State slice at 14 was this size. Now with USC and UCLA added in and a brand new TV contract, now the slice is that size. Oh, that's why you expand. So you always have to ask the question when you do this, does anybody I bring in make it so everybody gets a bigger slice, exactly, or are they cutting into the slices? Mm-hmm. And that's something you'll have to sit down with a TV network, for example. And with a TV network, you'd have to say, are we better off where we are?
Sure.
Or can we get a better deal if we do something? Well, the SEC, now their deal is, remember, they added in Texas and Oklahoma after they had signed the TV deal.
Yep.
The Big Ten added in USC and UCLA before they signed the TV deal.
Bumped it, yeah.
That's why instead of happening on Memorial Day weekend a few years ago, it was signed in August. Because now they were added into the mix. Now let's reconfigure where we are. Suddenly Penn State is playing USC at 3:30 on CBS in the Coliseum. Oh.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good matchup. Suddenly, NBC's got Oregon and Wisconsin in prime time. Turned out to be a great game, too.
Oregon and Ohio State in prime time.
Right. Oregon and Ohio State in prime time as the back end of a doubleheader of Penn State USC.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's why, it's brands.
Absolutely.
That drive it. Not just, I used to talk about markets all the time. I did talk about, you got to have, you got the New York market, you got Washington, you got Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Philly, Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Detroit, Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Madison, right? Des Moines, Lincoln, right? I always talked about markets. I talked about that all the time. It's more than that. I've had to change my mindset on this. In college sports, it's about brands. Not just markets.
Right.
Markets are important.
Yeah, brand is. Yeah,
but brands, it's about brands. Yep. And I think that's a big part of this.
Absolutely.
Do you bring in the right brand that then in turn gives everybody a bigger slice of pie?
Absolutely. Prime example, you look at the college football playoff. You knew one team that was going to certainly be in prime time one of those 2 days.
Yep.
And that team was Notre Dame. And they were on the Friday night. And that's prime example of brand. That's what it brings to the table.
Well, that's why they got to the college football playoff semifinals. You sat there and went, Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Texas?
Yeah.
Holy mackerel. And the year before, you had the same thing. Texas playing Washington. Alabama's playing in the Rose Bowl against Michigan.
Absolutely.
That got 27 million viewers.
Yeah.
27 million viewers because you had the Rose Bowl, Michigan, Alabama. Holy, and with a game with stakes, a semifinal, winner goes to the championship game, losers out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I talk about the basketball thing, different numbers. But Penn State 2 years ago, second round, runs out Texas A&M. Texas runs out Colgate. Penn State and Texas are playing in primetime second round. Okay? And again, the national championship for wrestling is going on at the same time. I think it was in Oklahoma City, at that time.
Yep.
2 years ago. And they drew a good audience. They always draw a really good audience, somewhere between 400 and 650,000. Well, on this night, they drew 452,000. Fine. On ESPN. Prime ESPN. Penn State and Texas are playing on CBS in basketball. Okay? Neither one is known for basketball. No. Kevin Durant was there 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay? But it was Texas.
Yeah.
It was Penn State.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it was the NCAA tournament. They got 6.6 million viewers.
Yeah.
Brands mean something.
100%.
Now, let's talk about what you've done to the brand of this show.
That's right.
I know you're sent me a note saying how much you personally feel like you enhanced the show.
Certainly.
Because of your brand value.
That's right.
Sure.
That's right.
You know what? I'll go with it.
There it is. Selling point.
I will go with it. What the heck? Let's go with it. I think that's great. By the way, I should give you what who the award winners were this morning. Did I do that? I don't think I did that.
No.
About who the award winners were this morning. And it pretty much matches up with what I saw this morning. So it's not I know I'm not talking out of turn. So I'll just give you what the coaches said this morning. Okay, the competitors of the day. Normally, you would be in this list. But today,
disappointment.
Quarterback Jackson Smolik.
Nice.
Running back was the freshman Tyke Hayes. It was great to see this morning because I've talked to him a lot. Because there've been a couple of, ride over on the bus to a practice or ride over on the bus to a pep rally or something like that. I've had a lot of, talked a lot to Peter Gonzalez. Jack and I really like him. He talks to Jack and I yeah, it's like we're all old friends. He's the 19-year-old, right? He was the wide receiver winner today. Yeah. Luke Reynolds, a tight end. Offensive line was Nick Dawkins. Defensive line was Denai Dennis Sutton, who looked great today. I thought Elliott Washington looked terrific. He was the corner winner. Dominic DeLuca, I know you're shocked, right? Was the linebacker winner.
Too bad we have internet nowadays, because if you were to ask the question, who's the first Penn Stater to score a touchdown in college football playoff, and you didn't have the ability to look it up, man, that would be fun.
Yeah. I know, it's amazing.
That would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah. But I'll say this, Alex Tash pushed him today.
Right.
He did. Safety, Vabu Toure. And the special teams winner was the long snapper, Tyler Dzansky.
Nice.
So they've had 3 workouts so far, and 3 different quarterbacks have won. Drew, Ethan Grunkemeyer, Smolik. Running back, 3 different running backs have now won. Quentin Martin, Tyler Holsworth, Tyke Hayes. Wide receiver, 3 different wide receivers have won. Kyron Hudson, who I thought looked good today. Devontae Ross and Peter Gonzalez. Now, Reynolds has won the last 2 at tight end. Joey Schlaffer's also won. Offensive line, you've had 3 different winners. Drew Shelton, who, by the way, looks like he's in great shape. Drew Shelton, Alex Birchmeyer, now Nick Dawkins. 3 different defensive linemen have won, and all 3, again, I thought looked good. Zariah Fisher, Xavier Gilliam, Denai Dennis Sutton. 3 different linebackers, Curry Jackson, Tamir Robinson, and Dominic DeLuca. Elliott Washington, by the way, has won all 3 in the corners. All of them. Zakee Wheatley's won twice at safety. Today was Vabu. And then Riley Thompson won 1, and Dzansky's won the last 2. So they've got 3 more to go. They're going to go Friday after this, and then they'll get a week off, and then they'll, because everybody's on spring break.
Sure.
Mentally, you've been on spring break for weeks.
That's right. Months.
What?
Yeah.
No? You're concerning. But it's your day.
That's right.
We're going to name you the workout winner of the show today.
There it is.
Fabulous.